Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
I would like you all to give a warm welcome to our main speaker, Virginia.
Hi everybody, my name's Virginia and I'm an alcoholic. And I want you to know that I'm a replacement. Somebody got sick and she called me last night, Lila called me last night, she said, oh panicky, come, talk. So I said, okay. So I'm whining because I don't feel good and I'm coming down with the flu. I have a low Phoebe. Anyway, I've come to straighten your ass out. Hard to believe that anybody would get up and have the guts to say that kind of crap. You know what's come with the sobriety? What comes with the time, it's like, so, what's it like? What is it like? Tell me. Oh, you get to be who you really are. You don't care anymore. What you see is what you get. So anyway, I'm going to tell you my story. I couldn't remember enough of Lila's, so I'm going to have to tell you mine. But I want to talk about sobriety. I really don't want to talk about what it was like. It was awful. It's just awful. By the time I got here, I was 41 years old, and I started drinking when I was around 15 or 16 years old. I can't remember, and I'll tell you my first drink. I always have to say that because this is who I am. I wanted to see what it was like to get drunk. I didn't want to see what it was like to drink. I think I'd had sips at home. But I wanted to see what it was like to get drunk, and I was around 15 years old. Now, you got to go back. I mean, that's probably no big deal today. Everybody's so sophisticated. But like a million years ago, that was the big... Kids just didn't pour a big glass of booze and drink it down. I mean, they just didn't do it. My friends did not do this, I want you to know, but I did. And I got a big, these huge big tumblers. I think that would probably be more like 46 or 50 or 60. Big tumbler full of bourbon. And I started drinking it down. I got a Coke to wash it down. And of course I got all that stuff that comes with, that much ingesting that much liquor like at one time. I got violently sick. And I remember running in the bathroom and turning on the light and looking in the mirror. I wanted to experience what it looked like. I wanted to look at my eyes. And I wanted to see if they really dilated, if they were going to get like little pins, And I was very interested in how it felt. And then I can remember thinking, well, I don't think there's any big deal about it. And then of course it hit, And then I was really, really sick. And I always got really, really sick. And at the end, I didn't get so sick because I had finally learned, how to be really chemically correct. But for an awful lot of years, I was just a pig, and people used to watch me and they used to say, well, my mother used to say, you drink like a pig. I would drink a mixed drink down like it was Coca-Cola. I mean, and of course I drank Coca-Cola. I drank bourbon and Coca-Cola, and Cuba Libras they used to be called. and I drink it, just out like that. Just everything I did was like that. I mean, this is not a profound statement. I mean, this is who I am. Everything I did was just like this. I never had any kind of temperance at all. I never strove for any temperance. I didn't see what temperance could get me. Why would one want to be temperate? My mother used to talk about the middle road, the happy medium. I love to talk about that. I love the happy medium now. It is a really elusive son of a bitch for me. It's like walking the top of a knife as far as I'm concerned. But there is a point to it, if you get what I mean. I never was interested in anything other than a massive amount of negative excitement. Now, I didn't have any kind of awarenesses as I was coming up because I was very tunnel vision. It's just like everything I did was just sort of like marching straight ahead. I didn't have a lot of this. There weren't a lot of maybes and there was no gray areas. I just loved you, or I wouldn't even talk to you. Real charmer. And so when I came here, like I say, I'd been married a number of times. I had children and I had a business. And I'd had a lot of life experiences, and I felt that I was extremely hipster, slick and cool. I used to say that. I got sober in Manhattan Beach, and that was a big thing down in Manhattan Beach. You used to say, I'm no longer hip, slick, and cool. I still can't say that very well. I like to say it. I think it's cute, but I have a hard time doing it. But anyway, I don't know that I was ever that way. I always talked too much. I always laughed too loud. They used to tell me they could always hear me in the neighborhood. So if you can imagine my laugh and my voice, it booms. I don't need that thing. And a little booze. I mean, you can just imagine. I was never a secret. There was never anything about me that was a secret. And of course, I wasn't raised that way. I was raised in a home where my mother was. I will tell you about my family. You will love this. I mean, I come out of a real insane, crazy home. For one thing, I'm a convent school girl. Now, right away, the degrees of disciplines, in convent schools. I mean, now we're not talking about just parochial schools. We're talking about convent schools. And the nuns never seemed to like me. There was a few that did, but I really had a hard time with them. But anyway, I was trying to be a good girl. I was always trying to be a good girl, and of course I was always getting in trouble for nothing. I never did anything big time. I was just talking at the wrong time and being silly and joking and, just being a silly. But I never did anything bad. And that was, and I used to piss me off a lot too that I didn't have any fun. But what was going on at home, I was going to this convent school, and then what was going on at home was that my mother would tell me that my father was a terrible chaser. Now, if you're going to a convent school, that is not big time on playing around. I mean, Mommy and Daddy, you're supposed to go to church together on Sunday and things like that and support this whole religious training. So that was not happening to me. What was happening is my mother was always talking about how my father was chasing around. Now, my father was always chasing around. I do believe what she said. Now, the thing that has come to me, and I took it all for granted, because I think children do those things. But what was really going on was that my father was chasing around, and my mother had Uncle Dan. Now, I loved Uncle Dan. Now, Uncle Dan was a secret from Daddy. See? And then, of course, we could never let Daddy know that we knew about him. But I knew about everybody. And don't say anything, and don't be late for school. You get this dynamic? In other words, I learned at an early age, I was trained how to be extremely duplistic and lie. So honesty, I didn't even know from, well, what I was told was that if you tell, you will be separated from me. So if I told that my mother had Uncle Dan, I would be taken away from my mother, and I was very attached to my mother. And so I was put in a double bind. So to survive, I had to lie by omission, by knowing secrets. So I was raised with secrets, many, many secrets. In that home, and there was a lot of fun in that home too. I know it sounds strange, but there was, because there was a lot of money and there was a lot of stuff. And early on, I was the kind of a person that realized I liked the stuff that came with what we had. I really liked it. I'd never rejected it. I never had any confusion about that stuff. That always looked good to me, and I always wanted it. So, but anyway, this is sort of how my character, you know, was coming along. And yet, I'm going to school, and I went totally through high school, from the kindergarten, all the way in convent schools. So then I go to school and I have this strong religious training. So early on I realized that we were very different, and that I didn't talk about what I knew went on at home with my girlfriends. I had a lot of girlfriends. We were sufferers together under Sister Mary whoever, you know. But I never, you know, could really let that. I remember going over to their houses and seeing them play. I remember I used to like to go over to one girlfriend, and she had a whole bunch of brothers and sisters, and the father was a drunk. And he was totally ineffectual, and he used to sit in the living room and drink and just get wiped out, and he never bothered us at all. He was a piece of cake for me. I didn't pay any attention to him. And the mother was a character, and she was a story right out of an Al-Anon, you know, the Al-Anon book. And I just loved going over there because they all got to run wild. No one paid any attention to them, and I loved it. And at home, I was the only child, and my mother was just extremely focused on me. So, of course, with these kind of early beginnings, it taught me how to be extremely narcissistic, think about myself, tell lies, and prepared me for my alcoholism, you know, and here I am. And so when I got sober, I had years of very bad habits and belief systems that I had to let go of. But I didn't even know I had them for a long time. When I got sober down in Manhattan Beach. I'll tell you a little bit about that. I had, by then, I had my two boys. They were 11 and 14 years old. I had been married to, this was my third husband, the hero of my life, my shining knight in armor, and the man that I was totally obsessed with. I don't ever think I'd ever been obsessed with anybody until this third husband came along. But I just everything about that guy was right. You know what I mean? He even smelled right. I liked his hands, his arms, everything. It was perfect. And I thought I mean, it was just like I would go and sit next to him and just think, you know, I'm in heaven, I'm at peace, he will protect me. Well, now this is a practicing alcoholic. I'm a practicing alcoholic, he's a practicing alcoholic. I mean, come on. But you couldn't have told me any of that then. So that was my bottom. My family had died. I'd lost all my family to cancer. My family had died. I had the family business. I'm running a big business. I'm fairly well prepared, but not really, but sort of okay. I got through it. And my drinking, and I'm married to an alcoholic, and I have a lot of pressures. And my kids are getting older. And so I'm starting to get more freedom. And so I had a lot of freedom. The first time in my life I really had some freedom to do some real interesting drink. I mean, just, I could do what I wanted to do. My mother was gone. There was no one to tiss me. I mean, there was nothing. I had no boundaries. I mean, it was just like, I was set loose. It was like I finally got out of the convent. I mean, you know, I was just like this. I was just wild-eyed. It was great. And we drank and ran around together for about 4 or 5 years before I got sober, from about the time I was 31 until 41, and that was my bottom. I mean, that was the progression of the disease of alcoholism. I drank. I was always a periodic until the very end. At the very end, I was drinking almost every day. And it didn't take me very long to get drunk. I mean, I was getting drunk real fast. It was just, you know, the booze wasn't working. And I had become extremely proficient in life and looking good. I looked very good. The package was extremely, it was okay. I mean, I wouldn't mind looking like I look then now. You know, that would be nice. But anyway. So I got here and everything looked good, and I had all these tremendous old ideas, you know, about telling and not telling your secrets. And I didn't have there wasn't a spontaneous bone in my body. There was no spontaneity, there was no freedom. I was ruled by a million different things. By what I thought you wanted of me. I mean, you know, looking good to my kids, looking good to my husband, looking good to the world, trying to please people, and then the other side of it was I'd get mean and vicious. And you know, when I took my first inventory, I didn't have any illusions about being a Sunday school girl. I mean, I never really thought that was what I thought was that I was a very bitchy, difficult human being. I had a hard time seeing the good in me. I knew all about my character defects, and I accepted them, sort of. I mean, I just thought, so what? There's nothing can be done about me. So I come here, I'm 41 years old, I'm totally obsessed with my husband. I've turned into a drunk. I'm not high class anymore. You know what I'm saying? I'm a drunk. And I'm starting to look like a drunk, and I knew it. And so I went to that last party that I went to, and I had the last drink that I had, and I woke up the next morning and I'd wet the bed and done all that stuff and gone to bed with my clothes on. And anyway, I came over to my girlfriend and carried the message, and I went to Alcoholics Anonymous in Manhattan Beach, and that was October 1st, 1972. And I have not had to have a drink in these 21 years, and for that I am very grateful to God, because I really believe this is a gift from God. I have always been willing to do what Alcoholics Anonymous told me, but I do believe there is that special gift that we are given if we are willing. If we're not willing, I don't know what happens to the gift. I see the bodies around. You know, I know the stories and I know what happens. So by the time that I got sober, I really didn't want to drink anymore. I had really worn it out. There wasn't anything that looked attractive to me. And when I was 6 weeks sober, my husband had a heart attack, and when I was 3 months sober, he died. And so what happened was that I was really thrust into God. And now, in all these years, you know, say the last 10 years, I had totally rejected God because I didn't think that God worked for me. If I had something going wrong, or if there was a sickness with my children or something, I had my girlfriends that, you know, were good Catholic girls, and I would call them and I would ask them to pray for me. And you know, and they always said, sure, honey, we will, of course. And no one ever looked at me and said, you know, God will listen to you too, because I wouldn't have heard it. I wouldn't have even listened to it. So I had no God that was interested in me. God was for other people. I figured that at some level, I think that God was for people who were good. Now I rejected that good thing, and I talked at a tremendous rebellion. I was always a rebeller, and I always talked how it didn't mean a damn to me. Nothing meant a damn to me. But let me tell you something. The bottom line was, you better believe they had me. And I was judge and jury of myself, and there was no good there. I wasn't really worth redeeming. I had learned to accept that I was probably going to hell. I had accepted it. It was okay. I'd made my peace with it. And just before I got sober, I had a wonderful spiritual experience that the big book talks about. And right after that, I came to this program. And I'm not going to tell you that for 21 years it's been a piece of cake. Because it hasn't been a piece of cake. There's been a tremendous amount of heartbreak and suffering that has gone on in my life. There really, really has. There has also been the most massive amount of joy that I am so full of gratitude. You know, it was really nice that she asked me to talk tonight because, you know, this is my birthday week. And I am so thrilled and so full of gratitude. There are so many stories of miracles in my life that, you know, with the new people especially, I would love to sit down and tell you some of the miracles. There have been so many miracles. What happened to me was that I got very, very involved in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous right away. I had to. I was alone. I had 2 children to raise. And at that particular time, God was very kind. I had very good managers of my business because I was incapable of going to work and staying on point. There was no way I could do it. And I didn't have to. I had very, very good managers, and they didn't leave me until I was around 2.5 years sober. And by then, I was strong enough to take over and go back to work and to do it, you know, what I had been trained to do, and it was all right. See, every part of my story is, as far as I'm concerned, I see God's hand in. I have never been given more than I have had the strength to go through. You know, people tell you those things when you're going through very, very difficult times. When I was 2 years sober, my son at that time was 16 years old, and he started having some very serious emotional problems. We really didn't know what was wrong. And his father was still alive, but he wouldn't pay very much attention to me about Michael's problems. And I got Michael in therapy, and we didn't know. It took us around 6 or 8 months, and finally they said to me, you know, he was with a psychologist, and he said, you know, Michael really needs to go to a psychiatrist. I think Michael needs to be hospitalized. And so I found a psychiatrist for Michael, and he did not believe that Michael should be hospitalized. In fact, at that time I had been doing a lot of reading about the different mental diseases, and from what I could see, he followed the profile of schizophrenia pretty close. And I used to call him and I used to say, you know, I've been reading, and it looks like it. It's no. He said, no, this boy is not a schizophrenic. He has a schizoid personality. And bottom line is, my son is a paranoid schizophrenic, and he got worse and worse and worse. And the doctor lost control of him, and I lost control of him, and I had him at home. And Michael started he started going inside of himself and inside of himself and inside of himself. And I had him at home, and I love my children very, very much, and it was just hell to go through. And the women on this program held me up, actually held me up. There would be times that I would go to meetings, and I've always gone to women's meetings, that I would sit on the floor, and you know, the girls would sit on both sides of me and just pat me. It would be the well of the horror that I was living in, and my powerlessness to seem to get any help for him. I would call the police, I would do all kinds of things. But the system is such that if they are not dangerous to somebody else or to themselves and they can't see it, there's nothing you can do about it. So it took a long time. And Al-Anon, I went to Al-Anon a lot, and I got an Al-Anon sponsor during this period of time that helped me an awful lot, saved my ass. She really, really did. Now, I haven't talked about sponsorship myself, but I had a wonderful sponsor. I had a very good sponsor from the very beginning. But she wasn't very sober, but she was wonderful. In that first year, she read me the book, and we read it together. And you know, she gave me everything she had to give. But by the time I was around a year sober, I needed some more sobriety. Things were, like I said, things were starting to look like it was going to get maybe heavy around home. And I found a woman at that time. I was coming on my first birthday, and Lynn was 10 years sober, and she was wonderful. I mean, she was right in front of me. My story is, I'll tell you, there is always somebody right in front of you. The teacher is always right there if you are open to it. And if you don't have somebody in front of you, you are not open to it. That is the truth. You are not willing, because there is always somebody to take you to the next plateau, to take you to the next level of where you have to go. So I had Lynn, and I had her for 3 years until she moved away. She moved to, oh God, way up there and above Seattle. I mean, really too far away. And that was really, really tough for me, because she was like my mother. She really was. I'd had a good relationship with my mother, and I'd been very dependent on my mother, and I was very dependent on Lynn. And so my story is that any time that I get dependent on anybody, it seems like they're taken away from me. That is not my lot. I am supposed to learn, obviously in this life, to stand on my own 2 feet. And because of this program, you see, I have known that that's what it was, that it is a spiritual trip for me. And so Michael was getting worse and worse and worse, and people that were close to me at the time were very fearful that he would get violent. And I mean, now he'll talk to me about it, you know, it's been so many years, and you know, he was not that far from getting violent. And I could feel it, and I had locks put on my doors at night, and he used to sleep outside of my door. And about that time, I had found a therapist that I was going to, you know, to keep from going there first. And she helped me, and we were able to get the papers together and things like that, and to get him put in a hospital. But we weren't able to do it until he slipped into a catatonic stupor. And so, you know, that day I went in, and Michael was drooling, and his snot was running down his nose, and he was gray, and he had slipped totally into the catatonic stupor. And we were able to get him in the hospital, and that was his bottom, and that was the beginning of his recovery. And I'd forgotten to tell you, because I love relationships so much, just a little before this, just a little bit before this, I had gotten married again, because getting married was always an answer for me. And so, you know, you get to do the same thing sober that you did drinking, you know, and you get to have all those experiences, because somewhere along the line I didn't learn certain things, and so I had to go back and repeat them sober. And I married a man on this fellowship, and he was a kind person, but I married him for all the wrong reasons. And of course, it was a marriage that never really worked very well. I stayed married to him for 9.5 years, and we worked through an awful lot of stuff, and we learned to respect each other and to treat each other kindly as best we could. He, after we'd been married for a couple years, I don't remember exactly, he had a nervous breakdown, and he became psychotic. So now this is the second one. You know, I got this son here and this husband, and they captured him over at St. John's and put him in a straitjacket and took him away. And you know, I haven't gotten into this in a long time of how really bizarre this was. I can remember, I think Lila was over at the house that night, and one of the girls that I worked with was a nurse, an admitting nurse over there at St. John's, and she had me on the phone, and she put the phone up, and and let me listen to how far we'd lost sight of him for about 6 or 8 hours, half a day we lost sight of him. We couldn't find him, and he had slipped into total screaming, hollering, and bellowing, and she held the phone up to me. And she said, listen, and I said, I know, and the police came and they took him to the VA and they locked him up. And, but all the time that this was going on, though, let me tell you something, Alcoholics Anonymous was always there, always, always there. All my girlfriends, all the friends that I've developed on this program, recovering alcoholics, and somebody was talking here about going places and running into people on the program, and that's so exciting. And when I was new, I used to go out around a lot, and my kids were younger, so they'd go with me, and we'd go everywhere, and you know, and I'd be talking to people, and you know, my kid would say, is that one? Is that one? Is that one? Yeah. And he'd say, oh, Mommy, you know everybody, And I'd say, that's right, I do. And all the time that this drama and this trauma was going on, all these years that this was going on, because with Michael it was going on a long time. And then and in the middle of it all, because, you know, I got married. I mean, you know, and then this drama started going on. And at approximately the same time frame in there, I had a big business going, and I opened another business because, I mean, like I said, common sense was not middle of the road, was nothing for me. And of course, this extra business that I opened was wonderful because it got me out of the house really big time. I had to be out constantly, and I was doing two things. And the marriage was crappy, the kid was insane, and it kept my mind centered, you know. And all the time I'm doing this, I want you to know that I had been sponsoring girls, sponsoring girls, sponsoring girls. I started sponsoring girls when I was around 4 years sober, and they would come to me and come to me and come to me. And every time there'd be another one, I'd think, oh, I wonder if I have time for her. But there's always time. See, there's always time to get it. My life was so wild and weird and crazy that when they would call, I would love to listen to their stories. You know, tell me your story. You know, I didn't want what I had. I wanted to listen to something. And of course, that's what the program talks about. The program says, when you're in trouble with sex, the answer is service. And that's my story. The answer is service. And, you know, I sponsor a lot of girls, and I talk to girls a lot, and I talk to people, and they say, you know, they tell me they want what I have, but you know something, let me tell you something, many of them are not willing to do the amount of service work that I do, and that's the difference, and you have to be willing to do that, because that's the freedom. See, I came in here a secret, narcissistic, caring about nobody but myself, maybe my kids sort of in a very possessive way, my kids and things like that. I had no idea what love was, really loving relationships. I knew nothing of that, and you have taught me everything. You've taught me how to live, how to give. And without the service work, I would never have had the emotional experience of love. The first beginnings of what love is in one alcoholic giving to another, not going to bed and screwing, huh? It's giving something for free. That's what love is. That's when your heart really opens, and that's wonderful. And so I got to start feeling what love was. And when I started feeling what love was, an unconditional caring and loving with no strings. The 12-step work that I do, to the best of my ability, has no damn strings, because any other way, it doesn't work for me. I give girls direction, and I tell them what to do. I tell them what I do, and whether they do it or not is their own damn business. I never look to see. I don't believe in doing that. I believe in just sharing what I've got, and you know, take what you want and leave the rest, because that's the way I was raised. That's how it was when I came into AA. You know, they say to the newcomer, come and listen to us. Take what you want. Don't sit back there and say, oh, no, 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 no. Look for the good stuff. And that's true. I was told to look for the good stuff when I went around and listened to. And then the drama slowed down a little bit. The son started getting better. My husband got better. And then he got cancer. And I don't know. There's so many things to talk to you about. 21 years is a lot of life. And about this time, I'd really had it with this relationship. It had been very non-productive. There had been no love, and there'd been no joy, and I had worked real hard to put it into it. I had given until I was dry. And another person came into my life. Surprise! And so I got married again. And I am now married 7 years, or 6.5, almost 7 years, to the man that I'm married to now. And in this relationship, I have had the opportunity to do the kind of sharing at an intimate level that I was practicing when I was doing all this service work out here. And I was opening up and I was giving to you, but I couldn't be giving really. I wasn't open enough to do it. You know, you love when you're able to love, and you love intimately when you're able to love intimately. That's all there is to it. And I think there's a tremendous amount of healing that has to go on for the alcoholic. And all I know is that when I got into this relationship, I realized that that's what this was going to be. This was going to be no holes barred. There wasn't going to be any of me that I held back. There was going to be no secrets. There was going to be nothing. And it was very difficult because this man had been a friend to me for about 9 years, so he knew everything about me. That was awful. That was one of the toughest things I had to go through, is to shift from a friendship, which I can do, into a lover, and then they know everything about you. I mean, because when you start with men, you start games, you start dishonesty, you start being cute, you know, and you don't work your program. That's what it amounts to. And I couldn't get away with it. What happened was I had to be real with this person because he knew me so well. And it was the first month I thought I was going to die. I thought, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I had all this stuff around it, but I knew what it was. And I thought, well, maybe I'm not well enough, but I'm going to give it a try. And so I did. And I'm sure that it was difficult for him, too. He would never admit that it was. But I knew what I was going through. And it was letting somebody who I knew really, really well in the rest of the way. God, that's really tough for the alcoholic. And so this is what we do. We work on being loving. I try to practice loving my husband and giving my husband the break that I give my girlfriends and that I give the girls I work with. And sometimes it's really interesting. I was talking to Lyle about it, how difficult it is. Somehow, because he's my husband, he's not supposed to have weaknesses. He's supposed to be all-seeing, all-knowing, all-loving. He's supposed to bind my wounds. And I caught myself getting into that, and I thought, you know something, this is not right. I know better. But today I have a program, and I can stop my behavior, and I have a 10th step. You know, I can do it. Before I quit, I will say one thing that I feel is absolutely imperative and that has given me so much, is inventory work. I absolutely adore inventory work. So much so I've had an inventory meeting at my house for 13 years now. We started down at a friendly house. And we just continued it on, and it's just gone on and on and on. And that really has been a real foundation for me to really look at myself and to really become my own best friend. You see, I really didn't think that I was lovable to God. Now, what I found out is I'm a very special child of God, that God absolutely loves me the most, and you too. Thanks a lot.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.